Harihi Om Tat Sat. Okay, so we were halfway through the end part of the long commentary of Madhusudana Saraswati, and the verse number 32nd of the chapter 6 of the Bhagavad Gita, where he is explaining Atmopamyena sarvatra samam pashyati yorjuna sukkham va jadiva dukkham sa yogi paramo mataha. Is essentially trying to categorize these sadhakas, these aspirants. And these yoga sadhakas, he's saying, are of two types or two kinds. There are one types who are parama yogis, and there are another kind who are aparama. Not so special. You could kindly mute your microphones. So, having both these people in perspective, he's saying that you should try to be a parama yogi. And in order to become a parama yogi, he is now giving a long lecture that there are two categories of beginners. The initial qualifications also have a big role to play in determining how quickly and how far the sadhaka travels in his journey. If a person is a kritopasti, he has done a lot of sadhanas in advance. So he has done the homework, he has prepared the ground, he has cultivated it, and he has applied a lot of manure and fertilizer and stuff like that. And then there is rain, and as soon as there is rain, he broadcasts or he sows his seeds, or he does plantation. Then there's a bumper crop, provided he keeps an eye and maintains it, waters it from time to time. He can do a good harvest. Same way, a person who hasn't done it, first of all, he cannot go for the crops which requires primary work much in advance. Similarly, the sadhaka who hasn't done anything, but he was doing a job or he was a householder, he takes interest in Vedanta, he has done some job, he has done one good job, that's in the form of having some financial security for himself or for his family. Then he calls it a day and wants to study Vedanta. Can he reach that Atmajnana? That is the challenge. He says, okay, if he hasn't done the preliminary work, if he has done it, then after doing Tattvajnana Anveshana through Sravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana, after listening to the text, that is reading, making sense of it, and manana, removing the doubts and conflicting thoughts on what the text means, removing all alternative interpretations, he gets the best understanding of the text and what is the intention behind these textual statements that he's dealing with. He tries to apply it in his life and he does a full contemplation on it to have what? He has to have sansaya viparjaya rahita jnana. He wants to remove doubt or any false understanding or faulty understanding. Then he reaches that ultimate level where he can have some satisfaction because there is no more any doubt in him, no fallacious acceptance of a wrong way to look at things is there. And he's loaded with shraddha, he does some seva, and he sort of continues in this process, and he is easily established in the self. What about the others? Should they not try? No, they should also try, and they can try. However, there's a catch there, and what is that? He's saying, in case of those who are starting afresh without any preliminary work with regard to mononasa and vasanakshaya, there are three things which have to be worked on simultaneously. One is tattvajnana, mononasa, vasanakshaya. Mononasa is what? Pacifying your mind, disciplining it. And vasanakshaya is kind of purifying your inner constitution by getting rid of all distractions caused by past sanskaras or impressions of desires and your pursuit of them. You get rid of both. The memories, they are them, they very much there in the hard disk, but you're going to clean it, format it through hard work, vasanakshaya. And third one is when you have got rid of both, it's much easier for you to graduate to what is Tattvajnana. Tattvajnana, the whole practice. The goal is Tattvajnana, but the practice is also essentially Tattva Anveshana, exploration of the meaning of what it means to be here, where from we came, where we're going to go. All these philosophical questions and daily meditations and prayers and all. Now he's saying that if you haven't done the Vasanakshaya and Mononasa, clenching your inner self by moderating and thinning and eliminating desires and eliminating distractions or jumping around behavior of the mind. If you haven't done it, fine. You have to do it now because you have to get the results finally of self-realization. But two components you haven't done. This is okay. Then put all your focus and attention on Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana because there's no time left for you to do a lot of Patanjali Yoga Sutras, or for example, do a lot of asana pranayama. The body is very old. You cannot stretch it every other way, every which way you want. That's not possible. Similarly, you cannot do a lot of yajnas and stuff like that. You may not have you need a spouse, you need a lot of money, you need priests. You may not have time to do all that. So don't bother. Focus on what you want to do, that is study. Okay, then give a lot of attention to that. Completely preoccupy your mind with exploring truth. And by analysis, all the time focusing on that analytical aspect of your pursuit of the truth. You can, it will be a little difficult, but ultimately you will succeed. It's like a guy who wasn't very good in chemistry, or who wasn't very good in mathematics, but he loved physics. He studied physics very well, reasonably, and then he wants to do a PhD where he needs to understand. Let's imagine if he's working on nuclear physics, he will again go back to dealing with a lot of nuclear chemistry. And there also you'll find a lot of mathematical formulae being applied in the equations. How does he manage that? No, he will do it intensively at the same time. But there's no extra time available. He has to work on them simultaneously as much as required, but focus his attention on the research topic. It's a little like that. So in that context, we had done yesterday regarding why the benefit of these three things, vidyate hridaya granthis, chidyante sarva sansaya, shiyante chasya karmani, tasmin drishte paravare. So having seen that, this is the benefit of Tattva Jnana. Once you get that, all the doubts are removed, and all the, it removes your past doubts and removes your past ignorance, any possible doubts, and then it's also kind of a prevention of any future befalling, any future falling of your consciousness, any future, getting infected with faulty understanding or doubt in future, all the future karmas. Then yastu vigyanvan bhavatya manaskah bhavati samanaskah sadasuchi satu tat padam apnoti yasmad bhuya na jayate. A person who becomes that vijnana, gets that self-knowledge, samanaskah, that manonasa is kind of hinted here, is established in yoga, sada suchihi, that means vasana khyaya, all the desires have gone. Satu tat padam apnoti, that tattva jnana, the self-realization, he gets it. Yasmad bhuya na jayate. There's nothing else which is beyond that. And then we had discussed how to do manonasa and avasana khyaya. And we mentioned that, how to get rid of it. And you have that analytical, that I am aham brahmasmi, and how to do that, he is advising Drudha Bhavanaya Tyakta Purva Paravicharanam Yad Adanam Padarthasya Vasanasa Prakritita. Now dealing with Vasana Khyaya, how to get rid of the Vasanas. Then we discussed about three kinds of Vasanas yesterday. What are those three Vasanas? First, there are two categories. You have certain good Vasanas, which is like, I want to realize myself, study Vedanta. Malina Suddha, that is pure aspiration. The other one is desire, which is malina. It's a little dirty, stained, not impure, not fully pure. And then he mentioned about Suddha Daivi Sampat, and Asuddha is Asuri Sampat or whatever. And then the malina again, Trividha, we discussed Lokavasana, Sastravasana, Dehavasana. That Lokavasana is, that you want to please people. Sastravasana, you want to read a lot of things. And Dehavasana is, you want to maintain high level of well-being, remain free from diseases and any kind of health issues. And then we discuss again how Sastravasana can also be of three kinds. Okay, like for example, Patavasana, you want to recite the Vedas very well. Vahusastravasana, you want to read a lot. Or finally, you also do what? Anusthana Vyasanam. So you want to do a lot of ritual, a lot of pujas, Yajna Anushtanas and others, right? And then Why these things are not useful, whether Deha Vasana or Shastra Vasana or Loka Vasana, he's saying that Klesa Vahatvat, these are all very painful. They involve a lot of hardship you have to undertake to reach there. Purushartha Anupayogitvat, and they are not relevant for the higher goal of Dharma Artha Kama Moksha. They have some relevance, but they cannot give you moksha. They can give you some dharma phala, again Janma Mrityu. Okay, even if you do good things, that's a bondage. So it's not that you shouldn't do. Good things have to be done to purify your antakarana, and that we will discuss there when you move forward. And then darpa hetutvacha. If you do very well these things, you may also develop high level of ego, and that ego will destroy. And jarma hetutvacha. No liberation. Without knowledge, there is no liberation. Okay? And dehavasana vividha, we have mentioned that trividha again, dehavasana. Atmatva Vranti, Gunadhana Vranti, Dosapanena Vranti. Atmatva Vranti, you know that you look at the picture and you say, oh, how handsome I am. This is my body, I am X, Y, Z. You're forgetting who you are. You want to focus on the physical contours of yourself. Gunadhana Vranti, you know that Gunadhana. And Gunadhana is what you know, applying force on that arrow that you want to shoot. So applying some energies or whatever. So there was Laukika and Shastriya again that is mentioned, that you want to do Ganga Snana, Tirthata. That is Dehavasana, physical activity. Or you want to speak very well, you want to be a great singer, you want to be a good athlete. These are Laukika, Gunadhana. You want to develop some skills. Dosapanani with Dvividam, removing any kind of dosha that you have. You want to take some medicine and clean and keep your body healthy. That is also one kind of thing. And then Vaidika Snana Chamanadi Osochadi Apanayana Vaidika. Like you want to do some spiritual rituals to cleanse your system, like Kriya Yoga, Sudarsana Kriya, and all those things. These are also Dehavasanas. Because you're not spiritually doing it for moksha, you're doing it to remain younger and healthier. So that is why they're called Dehavasana. So again, he's defining what is Bahya Vasana, what is Antarvasana. These are all Bahya Vasana. Antarvasana is what? Raga, Dvesha, and all kinds of things which are there. So when you are mentally engaging with a certain object of happiness, that is Abhyantaravasana. Okay? Manasavasana. It's in a mental state. You want to have a house, you want to have a relationship, you want to be a great poet. You're not doing anything, you're just fantasizing about it. That is Manasavasana. When you start doing it, they become Bahya. They are Bahyavasana. And all these raga, moha, all these, they're kalushikaroti. They make your mind, your consciousness impure, and how to remove. That is how we are now saying this. Then what is dukkhanusai dvesaha, sukhanusai sukhaha, and how to do it that I should get all the happiness which others are getting. I shouldn't get any sadness which others are getting. All kinds of things that all the, my God, somebody is ill, I shouldn't come to me with your anxiety, right? Then he's saying, however, the spiritual guy gives a twist to this whole aspiration. That's not a problem, that you want to remain healthy or you want to stay away from the pain and frustration which others are suffering. But his prayer is different, which we do at the end of the studies every day. Sarve bhavantu sukhina. You are doing the sukha kamana. First thing, you are happy when someone is happy. So there is no ill will in you. And then you want everyone to be happy. So if everybody becomes happy, your prayer is granted by the Lord. Will you be unhappy? You're included in everyone. And you say no one should suffer when you do, sarve santu niramaya. They should be free from diseases and illness and depression and anxiety. Aren't you included there? That's a smart way of doing it. So you are basically doing what they call in management a win-win thing. So when you talk about love and glory and peace and prosperity for the whole humanity, that prayer, it's granted. Just imagine if God loves you, then you are anyway benefiting. The additional benefits will come to you. That will be grace of God, because He recognizes that this person is just not thinking about himself or herself, but he or she is dear to me because he has started to think like me. He's thinking about the whole universe, not just about his individual problems. And that is the first step, being inclusive. Identifying with the pains and pleasures of others and trying to feel happy when somebody is smiling and not feel bad that, look here, he has such a handsome son or a beautiful daughter and his daughter sings so well. His son is a great, cricket player or is a smart engineer. You should also feel happy. His son is as much as your son. Then, anyways, if you don't have a son, that's fine. But then, if you can manage to get some happiness by looking at someone's children, just imagine you are happy without having to take the responsibility, and you experience the same glory of love. So he's saying, Prana yathat mano vishta bhutana apite sa atmopamyena bhutesu dayam kurvati sadhava kurvanti sadhavaha. How do the sadhus behave? Sadhus are sadhus, straightforward guys. Their consciousness is like a straight line, not crooked. And how do they look at other people? Prana yathat mano vishta. The way all these things that I identify with myself, my ishta, whatever is good for me. Bhutanam apite tatha. This particular thing which I love, like good food, I want to have a good sleep. It's summer is coming, so I need low temperature inside the house. Everybody wants it. And the jnani, the sadhu, a good-natured person, he doesn't differentiate between he needs and others. He will not like to have something special and deny it to others. Then he's miserly, truly. He may be a rich person, but he's miserly. Atmopamyena bhuteshu dayam kurvanti sadhavaha. These wise guys, these sadhus, noble people, they're noble people in true sense of the term. So whatever they want to secure for themselves, they don't want to just do it for themselves because they see themselves in everybody. That is the main intention of that sloka, and that's why we're having such a long debate on it, long discussion on it. How to have that? Don't do unto your neighbor which you shall not do unto yourself. That is what was said in the Bible. And one of the 10 commandments, if you look at it, one of the commandments, thou shalt not seduce your neighbor's wife. Why was it mentioned there? Because if you disturb someone else's family, never stay assured that your family is going to stay safe because karma gets back. So many of these ancient sayings are kind of linked to giving us a guilt-free sleep and a bit of happiness, which is different from pleasure. Maybe you have some pleasure by denying it to somebody else, but that's a very stupid, foolish thing to do because that happiness is not integral, that is not comprehensive, that is not inclusive. What is not inclusive cannot be full, cannot be satisfied. That is why they say alpena nashukam. Less cannot make you happy. Your dhuma tadavishukam. Whatever is full and complete, that only. And that's why doing that sadhana and Vedanta and purifying our consciousness to have a bit of love and detachment. Love is not attachment. Love is a spiritual embrace. Whereas if you have desire and attachment and you call that love, you are basically, giving a beautiful gown to a very stupid thing called desire. And you're giving that beautiful gown to desire and you say, this is my love. You're hiding desire and you're calling it love. So that we have to be very careful about, and we need to constantly, as they advise in psychology, that you have to always find out and figure out what is your inner motivation, why you want to do this. Even if you want to show love and affection, be sure that you are doing it out of, from inside your heart, not by being too emotional, but by having that clarity of thought and purity of intention. That is liberating, that is elevating in nature, right? Etad eva ihapi uktam atmopamyena sarvatra ityadi. That is what Bhagavan says in this particular sloka, right? Atmopamyena sarvatra samam pasyati Arjuna. That yogi is now telling you, Arjuna, you have a long journey, but do you know when you can call yourself successful in this journey? When you are able to see in everybody you, and then you are graduating slowly. You are seeing some Veda, but you're looking at the inner unity, the inner universality. And Sukhamba Yadiva Dukham Sa Yogi Paramo Mataha. And Sukha and Dukha, whatever he likes, he wants everyone to have that. Whatever he doesn't like, he doesn't want anyone to suffer that. That kind of a universal compassion is the foundational ground. And a lot of people will tell you this verse you should remember. And you should always tell somebody who says that, do you know that in your religion there is no compassion? There's no charity. what is this sloka all about? If you look at this sloka, 32nd, it's all about love and compassion and charity. And this is an essential element of our faith, of our spiritual practice. That by excluding others and by not being able to express that love in a complete way, you're actually limiting your spiritual experience. You can never ascend. How much ever you might do yajna and tapa and dana and everything. Dana is good. But whatever you do, if you are not cultivating this attitudinal issue, purifying, refining your attitude towards yourself, because all about Vedanta is all about how we transform our attitude and understanding. Physically, you will be same. You will not look more handsome or taller or sharper or anything, nothing of that sort. We are not going to be more intelligent by studying Vedanta. But the way we look at others, the way we understand and relate to the world, that can change. It can bring a sense and a feeling of lightness to our lives. That's why we are running after this and struggling. Okay? आत्मौपम्येन सर्वत्र इत्यादि तथा प्राणिनः स्वभावतः एव पुण्यं नानुतिष्ठन्ति पापं तु अनुतिष्ठन्ति. However, are everybody inclined to have that love for others, or they want to hurt others and be happy? If you go back to your childhood and if you had siblings, you remember you might be reading Vedanta and everything, but what you were like a child, you wanted to be happier. You didn't think about your friends or siblings as a child because the bodily frame of mind, or whatever you call it, children are very selfish. Of course, initially they are very loving and others, but after some time, suddenly there's a phase where they're very selfish, and suddenly then they sort of morally progress, and there's a renewed understanding. They become loving and compassionate depending on what kind of circumstances they find themselves in. Maybe it's also prarabdha, and it's a combination of all factors. So generally, the tendency of the human mind or human being is that animals cannot have papa punya, even though we have seen a lot of cases where animals are more compassionate, certain animals are more loving than others. You can attribute it to the purva sanskaras. Maybe they are kind of abhisapta, they are on some kind of a curse, that they have taken an animal body, but they have a noble compassion as a result of the impression which they borrow or inherit from some previous births. And that's how you read the Jataka stories of Lord Buddha and how he was a very thoughtful person, a thoughtful being, even though he had the body of an elephant or the body of a snake. And we have read those stories and we see that in our everyday life, how animals can be more compassionate sometimes when they feel for us. So he's first categorizing what is the natural tendency of a wise guy, somebody who is a little sadhu, a little noble because of some past punya, or somebody who is not so. The normal people, whenever you say swabhavika, by nature, when you bring that by nature, what are we? By nature, we are ignorant. By nature, we are referring to ignorance, avidya. And we'll have all kinds of faulty, twisted behavior, which limits the possibility of our expanding our consciousness and embrace a larger reality and experience greater happiness and reach a higher level of self-illumination. These are all kind of controlled, restricted, and limited by our inability to shift our attention from a myopic vision, which is all about here and now, quickly trying to get things which every which way, to one which is ready to take a bit of pain and frustration for a longer term and a higher experience of what is love and what is good and whatever. So one is punya path, which is hard to follow in the beginning, and the anuma is papa path. Very quick thing, shortcuts. But it gives you a lot of angst and pain and anxiety in the long term. So we'll look at a good sloka and we'll try to finish the commentary today. Punyasya phalam icchanti punyam nechanti manavaha. Everybody wants punyasya phalam. If you do punya, what you get? Swarga prapti, rebirth in a very prosperous family, being born to a very wise and loving mother, and a caring, compassionate, and a protective father, with very good sanskara, who can give you very good education. Punyasya phalam icchanti. Good health, good looks, good brain, good attitude, all that. Punyam nechanti manava. No one wants to do punya because that involves an opportunity cost. You have to pay some price for being good. No one wants to do that. No papa phalam ichanti. If you do papa or if you do sinful activities, what are the results? There is punishment. Some divine curse. Maybe you are born with some lesser intelligence, bad looks. Let's not go into details. We know that sinful activities, bad activities will have some bad karma phalas. Nobody wants the papa phala. Then what do? Papam kurvanti yatnata. With a lot of care, they are ready to do papa. Nobody wants papa phala, but does papa. Nobody does punya, but wants punya phala. Now, in a common sense, if you are explaining this principle to anybody, your children, what it is all about, nobody wants to study hard. Everybody wants the gold medal. And nobody wants to fail in the examination, but they while away their time. They're ready to watch cricket and move around and do WhatsApping and Facebooking or whatever. They're ready to waste their time, but they don't want to fail in the examination. They do not want to miss the target they have set for themselves. They want to do the target, but they don't want to do the hard work required for it. That is the conundrum in which they are caught. Teja punya pape, this punya and a papa, akriyamana kriyamani. So what is akriyamana? Punya. You have to do the annual like this. Punya pape, this is dvibachana. Punya and phalam tale phalani. So punya and papa. So punya pape. And then akriyamana kriyamane. So punya you haven't done. Akriyamana punya and kriyamana papa. So we haven't done any punya karmas. We have done a lot of papa karmas. Then old age comes. And old age comes, you find everything going wrong in life. Okay, then what happens? Paschatapam janayataha. So they will always give you an opportunity. They'll give you an event to repent later in life. If you're living a life of no punya and a lot of papa, so what happens? You end up repenting in life. And the repentance is like what? Sacha Sritya Anuditaha. And the Shruti tells you, Kimaham sadhu na akaravam, kimaham papam akaravam. Then the Shastra beautifully captures the emotion of a person who has wasted his time without doing some good karmas and having done a lot of bad karmas. Then there is some jnana. He is struck with some disease or a bad situation in life. Then he goes to God and tries to apologize. Kim aham sadhu na akaravam. Oh God, why didn't you tell me to do good things? Why didn't I do these good things? Kim aham papam akaravam. Why did I do all these bad things? How stupid I was. Yad aso punya purusheshu mudita bhavayet tada tad vasanavan swayam eva apramoto asukla krishne punya pravartate. And a person who is mudita, yad aso, yadi aso punya purusheshu. If there is actually a particular person who is a punya purusha, does a lot of good things, and you have made him a role model, muditam bhavayet, then you respect him. You want to sit with him, do a bit of satsang. Tada vasanavan, and then you have his punya vasana. He has suddha vasana. So you also benefit and imitate. You also have good aspirations. Swayam eva apramato, then you do not do pramada. Pramada and alasya, the physical heaviness causes alasya, refusal to do something by being lazy. Pramada, mental distraction. You have the capacity, do you want to do it? Okay, we'll do it tomorrow, kind of thing. So pramada, without doing that apramato, asukla krishna punya patastate. What is asukla krishna? Punya karma is shukla and Krishna is papa karma. But asukla krishna is the yogi who is beyond papa and punya because everything he does, he is not wanting any phala. Krishna or papa phala he doesn't want. And still that's called punya because that is Shuddha Sattva and elevates his consciousness to a higher level. Punya pravartate. Tad uttam. Okay? Tad uttam karma sukla krishna yoginaha. Trividham itaresham. This is actually a quotation from the Patanjali Yoga Sutras. He's saying karma asukla krishnam yoginaha. so far the yogis are concerned, they are karmas and neither Shukla nor Krishna. These are not completely tamasic or rajasic or not purely sattvic. They are not oriented towards getting any good or bad benefits. Why? They have lost the sense of agency. They are not doing anything for any selfish fulfillment of any limited individual target in life. And therefore, it's neither, you cannot call it papa punya. They are beyond that. Trividham iteresam. Itara is what? All the people who are not yogis, who are not atmastha. For them, you have Shukla, Krishna, and Shukla Krishna. Shukla is what? Good karmas. Krishna, bad karma. Shukla Krishna mixed. Of course, you will find 85% of the people actually Shukla Krishna. Mixed things. You do certain things where there is something good happening and something bad happening. So, I mean, your life is like, in that sense, your conduct is like a mix fruit juice, which is a little bitter, it's a little salty, and there is sweetness, and there is a little. So it's all mixed up. Okay? And then your Ayuginam Trividam Suklam, that is Subham, Krishnam, Asubham, Asukla Krishnam, Subha Subham iti. So Subha and Asubha, good, bad, auspicious, inauspicious. It's a mixture. The Sukla is for auspicious, Krishna is for inauspicious, and Sukla Krishna is a mixture of both. Tatha Papa Purusheshu Upeksham Bhavayantaha. So, why is mentioning this? This is about Suddha Vasana. And we have already studied that when we did the Patanjali Yoga Sutra summary as a follow-up of the verse number 15 and later. So, Maitri, Karuna, and Mudita, Upeksha, these are some of the attitudes the yogis do for others because they are no more attached to anyone. They have no significant connection with anyone. But when they are connecting with the external reality, that is how they deal with them. Right? So, what he's saying is that Papa Purusheshu, Punya Purusheshu Mudita, you have that respect. And then you have Papa Purusha, somebody is doing bad things. What do? You do ignore him. Don't fight with him. You cannot change him. He's on his path. I mean, of course, if you're in law enforcement, you want to inform the police because he's trying to harm somebody, beating up a child, and trying to molest or harm a lady, or trying to run away with the certain personal belongings of a helpless old person of an old couple. Of course, we should intervene, and that's our prime duty, both secular and spiritual. That's your duty. But when there are somebody, he's not harming anyone, but he's wasting his time. That's none of your business. You can just give one piece of advice, but not required if you're not in the picture. It's up to him. Just avoid, because he'll pick up a fight with you and spoil the peace of your mind. So he's saying, Papa Purusheshu Upacham Bhavayan Swayam Api Tad Vasanavan Papan Nivartate. Tad Vasanavan Papan Nivartate. So when you have an opportunity face to face with somebody who's a Papa Purusha, is committing sinful activities, a lot of people discuss that, and it's very bad actually in spiritual life. So a lot of people discuss the personal conduct of a person. And if you're a true Vedanta, we should always distinguish between what, because of a psychological problem somebody has done, and what he or she is. She is as much pure as you, because all of us are pure. That is Vedanta. Where some wrong thing has happened. Now, by discussing regarding it with your friend or gossiping, what you're doing is you're allowing your consciousness to kind of deteriorate, and go down, descend to a lower level of occupation with a faulty thing, and it will affect you. So absolutely no need to do that. Papa Purusheshu Upachyam Bhavayan Swayam Apita the Vasanavan Papas Nivartate. So that vasana that he has, that fellow person has certain bad desires and he's fulfilling it. By ignoring him, first thing, you ignore him. You don't criticize, you don't get affected. But by removing him or her from your consciousness, you can help if he or she wants you to do something. But otherwise, by just doing upeksha, by overlooking him or her, what you're doing is that desire which is troubling him, that desire shall not trouble you because you have avoided that from your consciousness. So you are free from that. Tatasya punya akarana papa karana nimittasya paschatapasya abhave chittam prasidati. What is the benefit for you if you do this? If you love and respect and associate with punya purushas, and you avoid the Papa Purushas. Kusanga, Kusansarga dosha gunaha bhavanti. Okay? Most of the bad relationship, we have bad habits coming to us. So keeping away from people who have bad habits is very, very important because they'll manipulate you. And especially if you're a little emotionally weak and you're approval seeking, you are a little insecure, they'll make use of it to drag you to things they do. So it's very important to keep away from these people. Friendship is not very important. Whatever friends you have in life when you were a child, that's good enough. Good enough for one life. Now, important is to be a good friend of yours. Be the best friend of yourself. That is what Vedanta is all about. So, punya karana, papa karana, nimittasya, the causes. What is the trigger for not doing punya and doing papa? Now, vidya, ignorance, faulty understanding, bad habits. Paschatapasya abhave chittam prasidasi. So, you are not doing any bad thing. And this is nimitta for what? Doing some repentance, wailing over something you haven't done or you have done bad or good. So that opportunity or that eventuality is removed. Then what happens to the mind? It's peaceful. Chittam prashidati. Evam sukhisu maitrim bhavayato na kevalam raga nivartate kintu asuya irsadayopi nivartante. And when you have maitri, somebody is happy, and you also try to feel happy and you have compassion, you have love for that fellow, then what happens? He's saying you are free from two immediate illnesses. One is asuya, jealousy, and then you have irsha. Okay, both irsha is intolerance, and you have asuya, which is jealousy. Okay, paraguneshu dosa aviskaranam asuya. So you try to find faults with others. You want to gossip about it. And thereby, by showing another person as inferior to you, you are trying to indirectly show yourself as better. It's like drawing a small straight line next to a big one. You say there is a short straight line. You draw a shorter one. Then it's like you want to look taller. Stand next to a person who's shorter than you. You look very tall. So it's like that. So paraguneshu dosa aviskaranam asuya. That is the definition of what is asuya. Paragunanam asanam isha. Somebody is a great singer. Somebody comes and tells you, did you see that YouTube? And that girl is a great singer. Or you send it to someone who also can sing a little. And invariably you will find that he doesn't respond to you. He might get a little angry with you because he will think that you are trying to tease him, saying that, look, somebody else sings better than you. It's quite possible you're doing it, but he will think like that, even if you're not doing it. And you shouldn't emotionally hurt somebody by also, all the time comparing, and especially parents, without knowing, compare their children with others. And they are contributing actually to asuya. And also isha. The children will experience both intolerance, also, this particular thing, fault finding in others. They inherit this desire, and it's very dangerous to do it with own children or with students. Yada maitri vasat parasukham swayam eva sampanna tada paraguneshu katham asuyadikam sambhave. On the other hand, if you can experience this virtue of maitri, that gregariousness, if you can have that gregariness and you want to sort of develop that attitude of friendly warmth for people who are happy, then what happens? Parasukam swiyameva. Somebody is happy, you also join. Joy shared is joy doubled, and you are also happy. Somebody has scored high in an examination, and your parents are throwing a party, they invite you. Don't feel bad because maybe your student hasn't done so well. That's another coaching institute. You go and join and celebrate it, and you feel good. And the child whosoever has scored well feels very grateful to you. And by doing that, it's yours, sampurna tada paraguneshu katham asuyadikam sampade. And if you do it, if you join that party, you celebrate with others, and you are able to share the happiness, then you are free from these two troublesome emotions called, fault finding, cribbing about others, and intolerance, irsha and asuya. तथा दुःखीषु करुणाभावयुक्तः शत्रुवधाधिकरो द्वेषो यदा निवर्तते तदा दुःखित्व प्रतियोगिका सुखित्व प्रयुक्त दर्पोपि निवर्तते. And similarly, now let's talk about a person who is not so happy. he's in a difficult situation, a little poor, or maybe he has a breakdown in the family or some kind of hardship. All of us pass through some problem or the other. And when you find somebody who is passing through some difficulty, when you have karuna, empathy, and compassion, then what happens is that particular habit of showing sympathy and compassion will also manifest as a kind of pure emotion in you, and you shall not like to practice violence. If you have a habit of shouting at children or students or anybody, sometimes we are very cruel and rude. So that rudeness is going to get out of your life. Whether in office somebody is in a subordinate position and there are people who want to shout at them. They shout at people whosoever is dependent on them. But this cruelty or rudeness can go away by practicing that Maitri that I should have. So in Buddhism, actually, one of the days we can do that. There's a particular meditation, and that meditation is called loving kindness, and it's called Metta meditation. Metta is actually a Pali word for Maitri, and trying to sort of pray for others and send love to someone, even if you have been hurt by the person, can you still love them at a mental, spiritual plane? It creates an universe, invisible universe around you of love and peace and positivity. And that sort of starts influencing others, whosoever comes closer to you. That is about metta meditation. Very beautiful experience. And you can actually, if there is some anger or trauma or some kind of trouble, that kind of meditation helps very deeply. And this particular secret is kind of, you can dig it out. You have to mine it out of this particular thing that we're discussing in this verse. Tata dukkhishu karuna bhavayata satrubadhadi karo desho yada nivartate. Like, for example, I want to kill that fellow who has misbehaved with me. I want to teach him a lesson. Those sort of revengefulness will go out. Then, tada dukkitva pratiyogika sukhitva. So then there are certain negative emotions which are associated with a state of superfluous and illusory sense of well-being. And what are those emotions? There is that two words in Bhagavad Gita, amanitva, adambhitva, having dambha, the false confidence that I have to do it, and this, and then that pride that you have, and they're associated with an illusory sense of happiness or glory or prosperity or whatever. Now, when you start having compassion for others and empathy, if you are someone who by nature is a little egotistic or very proud of what you have, maybe you have scored very high in the examination, like you have a good house, you have a good spouse and good children, that's very good. And others would also sort of share the joy with you. But maybe you have this particular darpa, that dambha, darpa, or this abhimana, all these things are with you, ego and pride and vain glory or whatever. These things which actually diminish your happiness in the long run and make you less lovable. Anybody who is egoistic and talks about himself too much, or he sort of is too proud, or other people do not relate to him. You must have seen that. A proud person is always avoided. Even in parties, when he enters, other people sort of walk away from him, right? So he says that if you can do that, it's very important. So you can also get rid of these negativities associated with an illusory sense of happiness. Evam dosantara nibritti api guhaniya vasishta ramayana adishu. So he's saying that dosantara, other kinds of dosantara, other difficulties in character or some kind of weaknesses, you can also remove and mitigate by meditating like this. Tadevam tattva jnanam manunasa vasana kayasya iti trayam abhyasaniya. Then he's saying that, O Rama, that's for all of us. Vasishta has advised that you have to do tattva jnana. Manonasa and vasanakya, he's already explained how to do now tattva jnana. Manonasa and vasanakya, we have already discussed. Manonasa is asamprajnata samadhi. He said, I have already explained to you. Vasanakya, now he discussed at the length, and getting rid of these three kinds of things, right? That the Shastra Vasana, Deha Vasana, Laukika Vasana, Loka Vasana, and all kinds of diseases of the attitude, weaknesses and illnesses is associated with, and deficits associated with the way we relate with the universe of other human beings or animals and birds. Having said that, now we're coming to Tattva Jnana, and how will you follow that? And he quotes again, this is a beautiful verse. Tat chintanam tat kathanam annunyam tat prabodhanam edad eka paratvam cha brahma bhasam vidurvudha. How do you do it? Tat chintanam. Don't talk about cricket matches or politics or all things, but all the time talk about whenever you have a bit of time for conversation. Why can't you talk about Shastra? Why can't you talk about what you're studying in the Vedanta and discuss that with somebody who is a journeyman who is with you, who is a poor traveler, a sadhaka, another person. Tat chintanam, think about that. Tat kathanam. These are two critical advices. Whenever you have time to think about it, think about this Vedantic Shastric truths. And Anyonyam tat prabodhanam. And you share that and discuss that with others to clarify your thoughts. That is what is satsanga. The first sentence is do satsanga. Tat chintanam, tat kathanam, anyonyam, tat prabodhanam. That is satsang. Sat is not that you are having sangha with a good guy. Sat is you are establishing a companionship and you're spending your time with truth in the true sense of the term. And that's spiritually guided, and that's why it's satsanga. Tad tadeka paratvam cha brahma bhasam vidurvudha. Okay, and then by focusing all the time that Brahman is one and that is beyond all that, having that Brahma bhasam vidurvudha. That is what has been mentioned and advised by the wise people who have realized this. Then what? You have to remove the attention from the apparent universe of material facts around you. All kinds of stories are told to you about what is what and what will make you happy. Many of these things only mislead us, blind us to our true aspirations. You get a lot of commercial calls like you buy this, do that, do that. You're going to be happy. They're actually going to trap you. So you have to just avoid this kind of clutter out of one's consciousness. Then he's saying, Sargada veva nutpannam drishyam nasteva tassada idam jagat aham cheti bodhabhyasam vidhu param. Then this is the other aspect of this Tattvajnana Abhyasa. He's trying to just, it's very difficult to summarize Tattvajnana in just a couple of slokas, but he's trying to do it, and they're beautiful, very loaded, pregnant with a lot of meaning. Sargadav eva notpannam. So, the Srishti Prakriya, this whole samsara that you see, it was never there. But then they appear before you. But you're doing Tattva Bodha and Atma Bodha and the Vedanta Chintana, then you try to say this phenomenal reality. Yes, it is there, but I'm going to take my mind off it. The less I think of it, the better. No utpannam drishyam nastyeva tattada. First thing, I see, whatever I see is drishya. Drigdishya Viveka is the name of one famous book. So Drik is the Chaitanya, and he's looking at this material facts, and he's saying these are all true. Whatever is drishya is false. Only Drik is satya. So like in a dream, you see a lot of dreams. These dreams are false. What is true? Your consciousness, which is seeing these dreams. It's creating this own vishaya and then engaging with it. It's all self-creation. Similarly, it's saying here that sargada veva notpannam, this sargada, all that, they are not even born ever. And therefore, the drishya that we are seeing, that this appears like this, you have to kind of refute it. It can take hours discussing this. So just briefly mentioning it because it's going to come again. Nastyeva tat sada. Permanently it's not there. Ada vante jayan nasti vartamane tatsatha. Whatever wasn't there in the beginning, it's not going to be there in the end. It's appearing in between like a dream. It's not true. Idam jagat aham cheti. And then you have this duality. I am looking at this wall. I'm going to get this degree. I'm going to get this house. I'm going to get this reward. These are me and this world. This duality is emerging out of a faulty understanding that this world is real and I as an individual consciousness is also real. Cheti, bodhabhyasam vidhu param. How do you get rid of it? By looking at this tattvamasi, that everything is pure consciousness and these are manifold manifestations in the form of apparently diverse, dual, multiple realities. But these projections are not fundamentally true. Phenomenally, yes, they appear to be true. But nasti eva. Why? Asti kim? Atma eva sat. That alone is true. The rest, they are all apparent. Atma, anatma. So aham, idam. So you just look at it. Then you meditate in the aham, sodhanam. Then you have to clean it up. Then jagat will go and the aham will be purified. Then you'll be identified with the Brahman, and that's how you benefit. Drishya abhavasa virodhi yoga abhyaso mano nirodhabhyasaha. So this drishya, whatever is apparent, these appearances, virodhi yoga abhyasa. You are trying to remove these thoughts. Thoughts are what? You're kind of dwelling on the external realities. You are meditating, connecting, thinking about all that. By doing Chitta Vritti Nirodha, you are disconnecting yourself with all the Drishya Padartha. We are giving a Vedantic face, a Vedantic color. We're trying to reinterpret what is simple yoga with a Vedantic vision of yoga. And that's why he's saying that Drishya Avabhasa Virodhi Yoga Bhyasa. What kind of yoga bhyasa? Not Chitta Vritti Nirodha, just trying to silence the mind. That is limited in a certain way. That doesn't give the final moksha from our perspective. What gives? If you are able to remove the faith in this reality as real, the yogi considers everything is real, but he's trying to dissociate it at the level of consciousness and not to identify with all this, but remains a dualist. It's a Dvaita Darshana. But the Vedanti says that these are not fundamentally true. So what am I liberating myself from? I'm liberating myself from a faulty understanding. I'm trying to correct, rectify a wrong way of looking at them and getting trapped. They don't even exist. Okay? It's like, you know, there's a person who has some sort of long hair and sitting in a bus and you're entering. And those days, there were segregation between men and women, right? And so there's a girl who enters the bus and he finds that there's a person with long hair and that's all she can see. Those days girls used to go and sit next to other girls. And she goes to sit there and finally looks at that fellow. He is a boy with his long hair. There's just a faulty understanding, right? Similarly, much of in life that we are deciding is kind of driven by a faulty understanding. They're not really so. They're actually really nothing exists except the adhisthana, the substratum, that foundation on which all these things appear. Okay, like the rainbow. So then he's saying Drishya Bhasa Virodhi Yoga Bhyasa Mano Nirodha Bhyasaha. That Yoga Bhyasa Rupaka Mano Nirodha Bhyasa. Mano Nirodha, not for the heck of it, but which is informed by Vedantic Vakyas. That this world is unreal, that Atma is only real, and that the only way to get liberation is Atma Jnana. Not sitting and doing Manonirodha, that's not sufficient. It's a necessary condition, not a sufficient condition. It's an insufficient condition. It will take you to a certain level, you're stuck there. But Vedanta, it's added, it's complete, it's integral. Then he says, Atyanta bhava sampato jnatur jnehasya vastunah yuktya sastreir yatante ye tepyatra bhyasinah stitaha. What is abhava sampati? Actually, if you consider all this world, this mithya vastus is real, what do you get? What are you aware of? Do they exist actually? No, fundamentally not there. So it is abhava sampati. End of the day, you are trying to be conscious of something which is fundamentally not there. And atyanta abhava sampati means this abhava that you're saying, and if you are completely aware of this, abhava that, atyanta abhava sampati, that abhava sampati and atyanta abhava sampati. And having this jnatur jnasya vastunaha. So when you sort of get rid of these dualities, okay, and if you think that there is a knower and there is something which is known, then you are having duality between the knower and the known, and you are knowing, you are reflecting on it. That is Tripiti. That is the main cause of this whole universe. If you can get rid of it, then you can ascend to a level of unitary consciousness. Okay, and this particular thing will come when we finish this particular sentence. He is explaining himself. Jnatru jnayor mithyatva dhi abhava sampati. Jnatri and jnaya, jnata and jnaya, the object of knowledge and the knower. Dhihi, mithyatva dhihi, abhava sampati. If you can realize that it's all mithya, that is abhava sampati. Swarupena api apratidihi atyanta bhava sampatihi tad artham. So if you can just realizing it is false, that is one level. But if you go to another thing, by very nature, if you don't even see the apratiti of that, that doesn't even appear before you, doesn't concern you, that is atyanta bhava sampati, which is higher level, yukta yogena. Then you try to sort of reach there, and yuktya means what? He's saying you can say that by logical argument, or by yuktya means here by yogena, by meditating on it. You're trying to, cross through these dualities and falsity of these dualities. Shastrihir yatante ye. And by the help of Shastras, by reading the texts and spiritual foundational, um, the details about why the appears the way it does, a bit of contemplation that we are doing by reading these texts. So these kinds of people are the real yoga abhyasis from a Vedantic standpoint. Drushya asambhava bodhena. Whatever is appearing cannot actually appear, because if that is there, that can appear. So how it can appear? So you're just hitting at the very foundation of it. Raga dvesati tanave. And why that doesn't appear? Because you are sort of thinning down, weakening, removing, mitigating raga and dvesha, aversion, attachment, which are at the root of much of our ignorance and vasana and distraction of the mind, loyalty, shape. Ratir ghanodita yaso. Yaso. The person in whom ratir ghanodita, dhana rati, dhana is that intense love. That love is that rati is not that conjugal love or whatever. These are all limited, temporary. That what is alpina nashakam? What is that complete love? When you are having atmarati, atmajnana, okay, that universal love. So that ratir ghanodita, it appears in them. They are able to experience that universal love. So brahmyabhyasaha sa uchyate. That is brahmyabhyasa. Just having love and affection for an individual can be raga. But when you are face to face with the truth and you're expanding your universe of how you relate with it, that becomes brahmyabhyasa. So that is how it's a couple of sentences left, and we will sort of just read it and we'll go to the next sloka tomorrow. Iti raga dvesadi shinata rupa vasanakya bhyasa uktaha. So raga dvesadi china. So trying to thinning down your aversion and your attachment, and this is the form which vasana here takes. So if you succeed in controlling your vasana's desires, what is the symptom that you have actually reduced them? You will see that you are not experiencing raga and dvesha, means attachment and aversion. That is the abhyasa uktaha. Tasmad upapannam etat tattvajnana bhyasena manonasa bhyasena vasanakya bhyasena cha raga dvesa sunyataya yaha swapara sukha dukhadishu samadrushtihi saha parama yogi mato yastu visamadrushtihi sa tattvajnanavan api aparamo yogi iti. So this is the conclusion of a long commentary on the verse 32nd. What is he saying here? The person who can manage to do Tattvajnana is having experience and understanding of the truth, that all things is illusory, Atma is only true, and that's unified, that's one thing, and I am trapped in these multiplicities and these diversities and dualities, should not lose myself in all this. I'll do what I do, but always remember that that phenomena are not real. Then he is able to remove his raga and desha, aversion and attachment. He has vasanakya, has removed his desires, and has mononasa. He has tranquilized, pacified his mind. If he can do all this, then what happens? Raga dvesa sunyataya. Then he doesn't have attachment and aversion. Then what will happen to him? Yaha swapara sukha dukhadisya samadrishti. Because he gets rid of attachment and aversion, he has a very universal kind of compassion for all and love for all. And then he becomes samadrishti. He's having joy when he sees somebody smile and happy, and he has compassion. That means what? He's like a mirror reflecting the emotions of others, and he is all the time in the self. Saha parama yogi. He's the right kind of a yogi. He yogi, he's yukta with me. He's all the time with me. Matpara, matu yattu visamadrishti. The person who has still dualities in him. He does mera hai tera hai, mera tera karta hai. That kind of a person who believes it's mine, me, mine, and it's you, yours kind of thing. Saha tattva jnanavan. Even if he has studied the Vedanta and all, if you have to look at his vyavahara, api aparama yogi, he is somewhere still at an intermediate state. Very high, very good, but he's not the ultimate yogi. That's how Bhagavan concludes, sloka number 32. and we will do the Shanti mantras. And if you have any questions, I'm going to switch off the YouTube live class because we've crossed the time, and any interactions we can do on the Google Meet.